Welcome to Short and to the Point, a podcast from the Comeback in Awful Announcing. Here's your host, Jessica Kleinschmidt.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Short and to the Point. Jessica Kleinschmidt here on the Comeback in Awful Announcing, another long podcast. And I say another long podcast because I felt like we just had like three of them all in one, but it was just one very long podcast. We're going back to basics, which is the thing I know the most, and that's baseball. And definitely going back to the basics because it was my good friend, Dan Straily. I've known him for years. I went from covering him slightly. He's a former Oakland A, back in the days where this was before Matt Chapman and Matt Olson. We're talking Grant Balfour. We're talking Sean Doolittle. We're talking Jerry Blevins. And he was part of that pitching rotation that was a great, I don't even know how to describe that team. They were scrappy. They headed to the playoffs 3 years in a row. We got to see Brandon Moss. We got to see Adam Rosales at the peak of their careers and some of the coolest storylines of that season. And to maintain this friendship with Dan over the years has been wonderful. And after 16 years of playing professional ball, he's still trying to continue his career, waiting for a team to call him. So he's currently a free agent, just waiting for a team to give him a chance. And just in addition to hosting this podcast, I do have friendships with these people, and Dan especially. It's been interesting to watch him wait for the phone to ring, wait for that text from his agent, wait for his next career opportunity. And I think it's going to happen for him. I think it's going to be a unique situation. We talked about that a little bit in this conversation, but to know that he doesn't want to give up gives me a lot of, hope, because it's such a unique industry. I'm, of course, coming from the media journalistic side of it all and broadcasting, where these jobs are given out to everybody, just as they are given out a lot in Major League Baseball as a player. So it's just great to have him on because he's seen so many different eras of this game and different views of it, because he wasn't always on the bigs. He was a minor league player. He was traded. He was DFA'd. He's been optioned. All the things you could possibly see on a transaction report, Dan's done it. So here's my chat with Dan Straily. Oh, okay. Welcome back. I told you Dan would be here. Dan, can you please get off your phone?
I'm here. Made it. Only 4 minutes late this time.
Only 4 minutes late this time. As I promised, my friend Dan is here. So Dan, I told you prepping for this podcast was the most bizarre prep I've ever done. I've known you for years. So kind of with my usual prep stuff is, I look at the background, I look at former interviews that you've done, and it was very boring because I just know you so well. What a weird intro, but thanks for stopping by Short and to the Point. Yeah,
boring, weird. I'm here for it. What else? Is that what we're here to talk about? How boring and weird it's been?
But speaking of boring and weird, you are a free agent. What a segue. What a segue. So tell me about it, because this isn't your first time being a free agent, but maybe perhaps a more unique situation. So how would you compare this free agency to previous ones?
This one's this one's a lot more stressful. The furthest I ever made it into the baseball season without a job was January, 21st, something like that. And now we're on, I don't even look at the calendar anymore. It's weird. So what I've been doing is just going up to Seattle a lot to drive line to stay ready. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like a very COVID term, but just back when
you were the original COVID baseball player. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I've been going to Seattle a lot. Bless your heart. Amanda's been very open to letting me take off and keep pursuing my dream and my journey here. Instead of just being hey, what are you doing? You don't have a job and it's March. It's like the opposite. It's hey, have you worked out yet today? Even coming here, she was like, well, when are you going to work out? If you're going upstairs to podcast, when are you going to work out? And I was like, we'll get to it. You can go pick Jackson up and I'll work out then. No, but it's it's just been weird. So doing all this stuff. I go up to Driveline a lot because they're a very trusted source. So like if they say that I hit 92 miles an hour, then like everyone believes it, right?
Yeah.
But like if I was at, this whatever, if I was at Planet Fitness and said I hit 92 miles an hour, no one would believe it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just a different style of gym, I know, but like still, like if it was there, no one would believe it. So I go up there because they're a very trusted source. It's been incredible off season in terms of learning. Completely changed the arsenal. Really hoping someone would be like, "Wow, look, like it's not the same Dan." Like, because it's not. Like I'm throwing completely different pitches, which has been really fun to take off on and learn new stuff. Even 16 years in here, but yeah, it's kind of at the point where you. I talk about it on my own podcast, but you kind of get to the spot where it's like there's two options. It's either keep going or don't.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no, if you don't stay ready and keep going and keep preparing, then you don't get to, then you don't have an opportunity. Zach Neal last year was, I don't know exactly how it happened, but toes up on the couch to signing with Oakland after spring training ended. Right.
Yeah.
And they ended up being a part of a team and helping out wherever he could wherever he was needed, he was there.
He had a full-on new career started.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, I think.
I didn't know that.
I believe he was like an EMT, and he was just ready to, and he was watching his brother in the stands, like he was just ready to continue his next chapter. Yeah.
Okay. Well, like, so you hear these small stories, or like even like Caleb Delabar. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but you hear all these stories that they kind of give you hope. They keep you going. They keep you realizing that like everybody's story, everybody's journey here is different. Everybody has a different path to wherever they get to. And I was really much in the belief here that I was like, well, I'm no longer being tagged as a starting pitcher. Like, just let me be a pitcher. But literally every single team we call is like, well, we're actually, we're looking for relievers. I'll be your reliever.
Yeah, you'll do it.
No, like you're a starter. Like you're still viewed as a starter. And it's like, I appreciate that, but I'd rather have a job than a title. It's like back when I was 23, if you would have been like, hey, Dan, you're going to go to the bullpen, I would have been telling you where you can shove it. Right. That's just, but like times have changed. I've changed. Everything's changed. The game has changed. And it's like, I just know I have more to give to this game at the highest level. And I just want my opportunity. So it's in this kind of weird hallway season right now for myself, where it's like, I'm waiting for guys to underperform and guys to get hurt. I know it sounds terrible to say it that way, but like, that's just the reality of the business we're in. Like the only way for a need to arise for more pitchers, is starting pitchers, is underperformance and injuries. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm just kind of in limbo. Obviously not rooting for that, not rooting for people to fail or people to get hurt. But just waiting for my opportunity somewhere, knowing that that's probably my way into any team is probably going to be a move followed by an injury somewhere.
Well, and it's interesting because there have been aspects in your career where you weren't sure what role you would play as far as a pitcher goes. I remember, like, I think it was with the Reds, there was a certain point of spring training where you were kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. Am I going to be coming out of the bullpen? But you were open to it. So, but you ended up starting. So that's great. But how do you kind of evolve if in prep, what have you, if you don't 100% know what role you're going to play?
Well, I think it's a lot easier to revert back to shorter outings. So I've been tomorrow, I'm building up to 4 innings and 60 something pitches. Like that's just where I'm at. I'm facing, we have a guy in town, another professional ball player that plays independent ball. And we have Will Taylor, who's Mr. Baseball Bat Bros himself. And they're going to come and take live at bats off me. Will's a switch hitter, so it helps me out. If I want to face some lefties, Will can flip around to the left side and do that. And like, he's an influencer, but we don't record that stuff. That's just for them helping me out. Like that's just being a real person. We're not trying to, exploit that in any way possible or make money on that in any way possible. It's just kind of for us. But so building up as a starter, because that's what I'm being told by my agent, by everybody else. Like that's what they want to see. They want to see length. They want to see that. Cause I think part of it is like, I'm a known commodity when it comes to that space. Like they know that I'm durable. I've had very few injuries in my career. Not that I've been 100% healthy my whole career. Don't get me wrong. Like that's
Nobody
not
has.
the thing for any.
Yeah.
No, but like I just a lot, not even tougher. Just like the stuff I've had to deal with hasn't been major. And then just building up as a starter because that's what people want, and just trying to. I think it's more of a mental battle at this point than anything else because this is all I've known, right? Like this is my, pretty much since I was like probably 15 years old, the baseball is when it kind of started taking off for me. And like, I'm 35 and that's all I've done since. So, yeah, it's weird to think that, this could be the end, but like, I don't think it is, but like, I don't know. Like, I'm just sitting here on March 7th, March. Are we in March? Yeah. March 7th, waiting for a call. So, just weird. Oh, as I put it, it's just weird.
Yeah, and that's like probably a good description of it. And you mentioned the mental battle. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, you go down these like rabbit holes. There's an article written the other day about players getting DFA'd and how much of a struggle that is. And I would say it's kind of similar to that, where it's like especially younger Dan had my entire identity was wrapped up in this sport, and that's definitely not the case anymore. So like the battle has changed a little bit with that, but like the mental battle is like, I go out there and throw really well and thinking that, there, when I say go out there and throw like up at Driveline where we're recording everything is on Edgertronics and camera, and we're getting all the TrackMan. I throw really well. And I honestly just kind of I just started texting GMs, started texting AGMs. I just started texting them. I texted one the other day. I'm not going to say names or teams or anything, but I texted one the other day and just said, "Hey, I'd love to send you my stuff if you're interested." And he replied within like 3 minutes and was just like, "Yeah, send it over." And then was just like, "Dude, you're on our radar. Like, just keep staying ready, keep working."
Is it one that I know?
No, it isn't. Maybe. I mean, everybody. We'll talk. We'll talk later.
Okay.
But no, it's just like you have all this kind of stuff. So it's like that brings you up. That brings your hope up, right? And then 3 days will go by. Nothing happens. And starts to hope starts to go down a little bit, and it's like trying to stay even keel is kind of the secret sauce to being a successful baseball player, the highs and lows of this game. But this one's been tough. So luckily for me, I find that working out might be my favorite stress reliever.
Right.
And so like just get a chance to go get on the Peloton and ride or go for a jog, or I can't lift a bunch of extra stuff because I have a program through Driveline that I need to stay diligent in. That way I stay healthy and stay ready and all this stuff we're working towards. But like, the extra cardio like definitely helps me kind of de-stress a little bit and keep things in the right spot for me. But yeah, it's the mental battle of all this stuff. Last week I was up in Seattle at Driveline, so I'm by myself, not with my family. And my wife thought I was crazy for doing this, but I consumed as much baseball as I possibly could. I just turned it on. I'm a huge fan of this game. Like I'm obviously I've been playing it for my whole adult life, but like I'm also just a huge fan of this game. But I needed to watch the games with like a super like honest self-evaluation lens, and was watching this and just like, do you still have it? And like I sat there with just like having like this like honest conversation with myself watching this.
Are you comparing yourself to the pictures?
1,000%. And I was like sitting there watching, and I'm just like, man, like, some of these guys, yeah, they throw harder than me, but like I command the ball better than them. Or man, like I literally throw a left-handed slider and a right-handed slider now. Like it's from a changeup, sorry, but they have the same profiles as like sweeper from the left-hand side, sweeper from the right-hand side. It just watching all this stuff, the way I've built my arsenal out, I've always been able to spin at baseball. I've never been able to throw super hard. But I've gotten a ton of outs at 90 point whatever is my career average. And like I'm throwing harder than that. And it's just like, why can't somebody give me a job? So just to tie up that part of the conversation, when I left watching those games, like the answer was keep going. Like you still have it. This is not over. Just be patient and wait it out. Wait for my turn because it's going to happen.
And it's interesting because I know you talked about you don't throw 100 and everybody's throwing 100 these days, but you once said that you feel like you throw 100 and that's the mentality there. So when you're throwing 92, you still are very much, you have this confidence, like I can still get guys out. So where does that come from? Where did that confidence, how was that born?
I mean, my 92 is the fastest 92 you'll ever see, Like, I don't know. It's, I think it comes from
has all the ride or what is it?
I mean, yeah, we can sit here and talk about the metrics of it.
Yeah.
I posted a fastball that I threw. It was like 90, but it was 24 inches of carry. And Codify tweeted about it and was like, only 70 fastballs were even thrown last year with that much carry above 90 miles an hour. Only 70. Think about how many fastballs are thrown in a baseball season. So it might not be the fastest, but it's got some deception to it. But I really do think that like a lot of where my confidence came as a young pitcher was through Dallas Braden when he came down to the minor leagues and had this like
stories. Yeah.
Well, it is, but he had this like very like loud conversation with us. And it just like, I walked away from that pep talk about, you might not have Steven Strasburg's fastball, but you have your changeup, you don't have, you might not have, Aroldis Chapman's fastball, but he doesn't have your slider, it's like, whatever it is. Like, and it just like, I walked away from that being like, like he's onto something there. And it just like started this like confidence thing for me. And that was the year I went on and like struck out the most people in minor league baseball. And like, I did it topping out maybe at 94 that year when I was younger. Like I still wasn't a hard thrower, but I learned to change up that. So now I had a weapon to face lefties basically. But it was just like this whole thing where to me, like I never really noticed that I didn't throw hard because like also too, like I didn't come up in a baseball environment. I'm from a small town of like 14, maybe 1,000 people out in Eastern Oregon. There wasn't a radar gun in town if it didn't belong to the state police. You know what I mean? Like there was no such thing. TrackMan was not even a company in the baseball space yet. Like none of this stuff existed. So there was radar guns, like I always but this is how reliable they were. When I was in short season, when I first got drafted, I was pitching in Spokane, Washington, and I threw a fastball and they said it was 100 and it made like the baseball, I forget whatever the baseball like website was back then, that maybe like Baseball Prospects or something. It was something like that, but it made like the headline the next day. And I was like, guys, no, like that is 1,000% not what happened. Right. Like no one please expect me to throw 100 ever again. Because
did anybody show up to talk to you about that? Like a scout or anything when they saw that you were throwing 100?
No, but the radar gun was off the whole day.
Okay.
And the A's radar gun had me topping out like at 94 that day.
Okay.
So it was just clearly, my point was that like none of that stuff, you might as well go to the fair and chuck those radar guns and call them
right.
You're basically at Planet Fitness throwing speed right there, right? This is
Planet Fitness so much in this conversation.
No,
they suck. I hate Planet.
I was just circling back on this like if Driveline's the trusted source, the Spokane Radar Indians radar gun, I think that's what they were called, was not the trusted source of the data coming out. So that was the first time that like I ever even was around people that threw hard. And I went to like a smaller D1 school in terms of conference size. It was Conference USA. There is a few first round pitchers in it, but like I don't know how many of them were throwing hard. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't like something that we monitored or measured. Like you either got outs or you didn't, right? Like it was that simple. And now there's like all these other things that play into it, right? With how you evaluate, how you look at things. And but I think that I've just always been like, that's exactly what I said. Like my thing as a pitcher is I got to make you look for 5 pitches. So like, even though if I don't throw that hard, like you're probably not getting too many fastballs anyway. So when I do throw it, like I'm sneaking it by you because you're you're probably trying to be better off being timed up for mid 80s. And then I sneak a 90s by you. Like it's because you're sitting soft, like, because I throw a lot of off speed. So, I just, kind of always had that mindset of like, I do throw 100, even though I don't.
Yeah.
But it's that whole, like I said earlier, just like, this is going to be the hardest 92 you've ever seen. Like, that's just kind of the way I've always been.
And it's interesting because you also talk about timing, and one of the biggest battles the biggest probably battle between a pitcher and a batter is the timing. And if you can trip them up on the timing, that's huge for you. So I feel like that's very beneficial to you. I'm not bashing on the 92 or anything like that.
Oh, no, you're good.
You were throwing that into the reason why you could benefit a team.
Yeah. So I had pro day at Driveline down in Arizona. And afterwards I got stopped by a scout right away. And he was just basically like, dude, like, you're same old guy we expected, throwing a little harder than we expected, which is a plus. But he was like, that was just a very professional bullpen. He's like, you pounded the strike zone. You're around the strike zone. You know what you're going to get. And it was like, dude, this guy's going to sign me. You know what I mean? Like, and he just wasn't a decision maker, but like hearing that kind of stuff just reiterates like who I am as a pitcher.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what I am. Like, I'm going to come in, I'm going to mix speeds. I'm always going to have great shapes, because if I throw a pitch that doesn't have a great shape, like I ditch it. Like, I don't keep it, because I can spin the baseball so well. Like, I made in a career off of my slider, but now like so many people throw a similar slider that like it's more of like an average now. So like I don't throw it that much. Whereas like a couple years ago, that was 48% of my pitches was that specific slider grip and that specific pitch, where it's like now it's like a very common thing that hitters are adjusting to. So I switched to a sweeper and learned something new. And, it felt like I was, breaking up with my first girlfriend when I had to say goodbye to that slider. But like I needed to, it was the league. It wasn't it. Right. Like it just needed something to be a little bit different. And I still have it. I still throw it when I'm, get a job here in the next few days, and I'll be throwing it at spring training next week. But
I'm so excited to see you in
much.
Arizona. I'm excited to see you in Arizona next week. It's going to be great.
Can you imagine? Oh, let's go. Keep talking these vibes up. I need this in my life.
I'm telling you, but we have to put it out in the universe. But that's part of it too. Like, why? I know you kind of touched on it, but you could easily just quit, right? So why hasn't that? I'm sure, or has it? Why haven't you just stuck to that narrative where you're just like, I'm done?
You know who Huberman is, like the Huberman Lab like podcast. You can say no, it's fine. But he had David Goggins on there. I don't know how many weeks ago it was, but it's like
you
can say marathon.
No, I was just thinking.
No, you can say no if you don't know who he is. I won't be offended. But he had David Goggins on, and one of the things that Goggins was talking about, because basically he said the same thing, like it's a completely different situation, but he was like, why don't you just quit? Like, you have nothing left to prove. You've had a good career. You've had this, you've had that. And it's like, I have more to give, was what Goggins said.
I love that.
I was like, I couldn't be more in the same boat. I have more to give. Like, it is not done yet. And I was on the phone with one of my former team presidents, the Marlins former Dave Sampson. I was talking to him a couple weeks back, and we were just catching up. We hadn't talked in about a year, and we were just catching up, and he was like, well, if this is it, like, and I was like, whoa, Dave, you shut your fucking mouth right now. I don't know if I can say that on here, but I was like, you do not say that.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
I was like, shush, you quiet down. We are not. And the whole thing was, he was like, it was just like, dude, do not put that out there. Cause like, I'm not there. Like, I will be, if I don't get signed, you will see a gap year. That's what I will be. I will be just keep going.
Like, there's no timeline.
No, but I'm going to have the coolest baseball card though. Because it's going to be like, the back of it's going to be like 2019 to 2024. There's nothing.
Right.
Because I was over in Korea, but it's just going to be that gap, but it's like, it's going to feel like my major league debut again when I get back. And that's what's driving me.
Yeah.
My son is 6. I want him to watch me pitch in the big leagues. That is what's driving me.
Right.
I have what it takes. I can do it's just like, now I just need somebody. I need an opportunity. I need a space. It's going to happen. And if I didn't believe that, then why am I here? Right.
Right.
Like, why would I even still be doing this? Like, I'd have moved on to full-time podcasting by now, but like I'm still completely committed to it. Maybe I'll look back at this and be like, man, you're an idiot. But I think I'm going to look back and just be like, man, like, I can't believe you thought that was hard. Like, just being patient for 2 months. And that's kind of been our motto as a family. Every time this game is not the easiest mental hurdle to live in, especially when you're a journeyman like myself. And my wife and I, Amanda, we've had so many conversations where it's like, man, you remember when we thought like getting optioned back when we were 23? Remember when we thought that was hard?
Yeah.
Or, hey, remember when we thought getting traded was hard? Remember when we thought that time I gave up a grand slam? Remember when we thought that was hard? And it's like, you start realizing really quickly that like we're equipped to take on a lot of stress and strain. And I can't believe I thought that was hard in the moment. Right. And I think this is just gonna be another one of those situations where it's just gonna keep building a really cool story. That it's bizarre. It's been twisty turny, right? Like there's not even the round that I was drafted in doesn't even exist anymore. To parts of 8 or 9 seasons I don't even know in the big leagues, to just like here at 35 still grinding, waiting for my opportunity, feeling like a college kid hoping for it. It's just that's kind of where I feel. The game doesn't owe me anything.
I agree. But I feel like you have that personality to have that weird, not the weird storyline, like the rookie or what have you. Like, I really feel like that's in your future, right? That's part of your destiny. But so
who's going to play me? Who's going to play me in the movie?
I can think of something. I'm really good at that. So just give me some time to think about it, but I can find somebody.
I want Chris Pratt to play me.
Oh,
I'm not saying for like a looks basis. I'm just saying we need Chris Pratt, and we need Chris Pratt in here. Is he not a baseball movie guy?
We just have one designated guy to play all the baseball movies. Is that what's happening now?
No, I just need Chris Pratt to be me in a baseball movie. He just loves baseball. He's just a fun guy to watch about baseball.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And he can make me way funnier than I ever thought I was in myself,
That's
the only person that laughs. My wife doesn't think I'm funny. My son thinks I'm funny, which makes me feel good. So
that's all. That's what matters.
And he just likes to tell he has the best jokes you've ever heard that I still don't understand half of them, but I try really hard to.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. When you're kind of like, okay, you have to humor them, of course.
Oh yeah.
My nephew is funny for sure. Up here, he's funny. But tell me a little bit more about Amanda, because every time we talk about, part of the reason why you continue to go, and you said like she wants you to continue working out, and you always talk about how much she inspires you, and he could easily tell you the same thing. Like, well, 16 years, like we did it, right? Especially in baseball, where it's hard to have that many years in MLB. So how has she inspired you?
I think it's going to get deep quick, but like it's really hard to do 2 career dreams, goals when you're a baseball family. It's really hard for both of you. I know some people do. God bless their souls. Teammates whose wives have been doctors, and teammates whose wives have had so many. Yeah, I've heard all the occupations possible. Amanda's a nurse, and basically we got to the point where she gave up her career as a nurse so that we could pursue my career as a baseball player. Right. And from like a financial standpoint, that makes the most obvious sense in the world. But life's a lot deeper than money, and it's a lot deeper than everything. Like, she gave up her dream so that my dream could become our dream. Mm-hmm. And so me doing anything other than giving it every last ounce that I can is disrespectful to her. Wow. And so it's like one of these things where it's like, she put so much of her life, so much of her world on pause. I can't tell you how many times we've said, someday we'll get to go do this. Someday we'll get to go do that. And, I want to say we've known each other more than half of our lives. Mm-hmm. And so like, we've just been through a lot. And she just is constantly waiting for me. Constantly, after games, after practices, after everything throughout the whole just everything a part of this journey. She's just been waiting. And so for me not to give this everything I have, I feel is super disrespectful to her and what she gave up so that my dream could become our dream, if that makes sense.
It does. And she could easily say like, now it's my turn, right? Like she could easily do all of that. And she's still, that's amazing.
Yeah. And she's back working right now. Mostly because if you don't work a certain amount, you lose your license. And so she's working back right now. She's always worked in spinal. She's a nurse. She's always done spine surgery. She's always just worked in that field. And so she's got that. She works 2 days a week at a specialty clinic here in town. And it's been good, but I definitely saw how nervous she was because it'd been a couple years since she was working as a nurse. But it exactly that. Like she could turn around and say, "Hey, now it's my turn to pursue this." But baseball is if you go have success, it takes care of you, right? Financially. And so I think also too, like there's that hope that I could still get back and be the next Rich Hill kind of situation. And then we can retire by age 40 and go start skiing and
could do the things
biking.
that you someday wanted to do.
All the things we've wanted to do. Like she makes fun of me because like I've never been to like Montana or anything like that. So I didn't grow up road tripping like her family did. And like I really want to go do all these things, but I'm not going to go drive through Montana in December. Like I don't want to deal with that.
We don't know. Like, I haven't had a spring break in a very long time. I don't know what that spring break is. Yeah.
Right. I mean, this would have been like our third Valentine's Day together, but I went to Seattle for the week to go to Driveline. But we almost had Valentine's Day together this year.
Wow.
So I'm still, that's usually when spring training starts, right? It's usually on Valentine's Day. And a lot of times I go out there for the first week by myself and then her and Jackson come. They just like let me get that first week kind of off my body and let me actually sleep all night kind of deal. Now Jackson sleeps like all night anyway, but back when he was younger, they let me go by myself a little early kind of deal. But it's just to tie up that part of it. It's like she's been giving so much of herself to letting me pursue this that, like I said, it would be disrespectful to her, but also to like, it really has become her dream too.
Yeah.
Like there's almost times where I feel like she's more excited about a good outing than I am, or she's more excited about a contract than I am, or she's more excited about just me accomplishing something than I am and we just really, it's good. She keeps me headed the right direction. She keeps me going where I need to go. And like I said, like it's just, she's given up so much to let me pursue this that I told her the other day that like, as much as I'm doing this for anything in the world, like I'm doing this for you and for Jackson. Like, yes, for myself too, but like, I really want to get back to see her in that Major League Stadium proud one more time.
Oh,
and hopefully a lot more than one more, but like, it's, you know what I mean? Like get back there. Felt like I was close when I signed with the D-backs a couple years ago and all those guys decided to shove and not get hurt. And that's what you sign up for when you sign up for one of these AAA jobs that you just got to hope that, you're the right guy whenever the need arises. But yeah, just really, I got a lot of reasons why I'm still doing this, but it definitely starts at the top with her and with Jackson.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, you said she let you kind of have your week before pitchers and catchers report and in spring training. We had Kathy Hubbard of ESPN on here. And she said, sometimes I have to just be and like work an assignment where my husband and my kid are back home. Because in order for me to be a great mom, I have to have 100% dedication sometimes to just my work. Yeah. And it was really cool to hear that. It sounds like those are synonymous.
Yeah. Well, like there is, and like there's this, I've seen it a lot on Instagram when it pops up, the algorithm knows what your mood is, I guess. But it was like this like quote, and it's like, it was like the struggle of a dad, but it's really more the struggle of anybody, the struggle of a parent, the struggle of a friend, the struggle of whatever. But it's like, you can have my time or we can have money. Like it's kind of one or the other. And baseball is a very extreme example of that because you leave home in February and you come home in September, October.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird. I lived in Oregon almost my whole life, but I haven't seen an Oregon summer since I was like 16. You know, like
Yeah.
it's just not normal, right?
Yeah.
It's my normal, but it's just not normal. So yeah, there is times where, you want me to be 100% a parent. I need to go accomplish the things I need to accomplish so that my mind is present when I come home.
I love that.
And so that particular week I went to Seattle, mostly because pitchers and catchers were reporting. I was starting to get very frustrated. Everybody was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I needed to leave, even if I wasn't going to the same place.
Yeah.
Let me go throw a bullpen. Let me go face hitters. Let me go have my own spring training up there for the week and just praying that I got signed while I was up there. Right. And it didn't happen. I'm still here. But at the same time, every time I pick up my phone, I'm just very hopeful that it says Paul Cobb texted me.
Yeah.
Very hopeful that, Paul called me. My agent called me a couple weeks ago about something completely different. And I texted him and I was like, man, I really thought you were calling me to tell me that
Yeah.
you got it. And he's like, I know, I knew that would happen, but I needed to tell you what I had to tell you. So, sorry, but
yeah.
You kind of go through these things and you're just like, it's every time I call Amanda, she's like, oh, I thought you were calling to tell me you got signed. Cause like, I don't call her too often. Right. Like,
yeah,
it's like, I text my wife, I see her every single night. Like I don't call her when she's at work cause she can't answer. And when I'm at the gym, she knows that I'm busy and it's like, so we just don't talk on the phone too often. So whenever I call her, like, she's probably like, oh, what's up? Something happened. But no, I just wondering if you picked up the dog food today. I get some more frozen food for the dogs. Are you good?
I was just talking about this earlier because my brother last year called me like crazy when my mom was sick, and he called, and he's not call her. He called me today, and I'm like, well, you can't tell me any bad news, but what's going on? It was actually like a nice phone call. It kind of freaked me out though. I'm like, what's going on?
Right. One of those people that, I got a text message from AJ Griffin the other day. I haven't talked to AJ Griffin in years.
Wow, name drop.
Like years. And AJ was in my wedding. Like we were prospects together. We were rookies together.
Yeah.
And we just kind of grew apart. And which reminds me, I said I was going to call him on Monday and I forgot. AJ, if you hear this, I'll call you back soon, brother.
AJ's a proud shortened to the point listener. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Well, but it's just like whenever you get those things, like it kind of like sparks your like, is everything okay? Like I hadn't even read the text message yet. And I'm like, is he okay?
Yeah.
Like I have no clue what's been going on. And he sent me a video. He's got like 3 dogs, 2 kids. And he's like, this is life now. Oh. And just like so happy because like, a lot of times on TV, you just get to see us all amped up with our heart rates at 170 and our blood pumping. And we're pissed off at the world trying to get outs and like just living in the moment. And then like there's this guy behind it. AJ just actually loves pugs.
Yeah.
Like no one would really know that if you didn't like take the time to, and now we have social media, but like Twitter was new when, I guess it was back when it was called Twitter. It was new when AJ and I first debuted, which is crazy. I think like iPhones came out when we got drafted,
but the whole such a fun time. I loved that time.
That was a great time. Yeah.
It was a great time.
It was crazy to think that my AAA catcher retired the other day. It's like, I can't believe it.
Oh, wow. Wait, was it
No, Josh Donaldson. He retired.
Oh, that's right, Josh. That's right. I forgot catcher. Yes. Duh. He was just on.
Well, and then my other AAA catcher, he's now the manager of the Guardians. It's just like all these guys around me are just they're done, and here I am still trying to go. It was weird too. Like last time I played when I was with the Diamondbacks organization, and like my manager in AAA, I was just like, hey, his name's Gil Velasquez, and I'm just like, hey, Didn't I play against you? I feel like I faced you. I feel like I really remember you. And he was like, yeah, we definitely faced off a few times. Wow. And I'm just like, now you're my manager. I'm sick. It's just like, but it's been.
Yeah, I see that a lot with the A's. I will say that. I see that a lot with the A's because obviously there's a lot of younger guys, but we will randomly sign a veteran who's just been like voter for sure. Like we just talked about. Now we've got Alex Wood and Ross Stripling. I'm excited to see, like, because Wood's been in the league for 11 years, which we haven't had a presence like that in the A's locker room in a while. Like Jet Lowry, of course, and same thing. He left the game, and but it's weird. It's weird to see, and even for me, because this is going to be my 6th season, and like you mentioned, Vogt, like I just covered his retirement, and now he's going to be here on opening day, and I'm like getting in the scrum to ask him some questions about the Guardians, which is crazy. That's crazy.
Hopefully he remembers you now that he's big time.
Yeah. Well, it was actually really cool. So a Cleveland local show had me on to talk about Vogt, and they mentioned like, oh, we had Jessica Kleinschmidt on, and he will never, you know how he is. He'll never like be too big. He's like Bo-Mel. You can text Bo-Mel. And I know you talked about Jared Parker recently. Jared was like, yeah, I text Bob, and he like quickly text me back, like nothing, like none of those. It's an A's vibe. You know, they just, you know, Ron Washington still refers to the A's as like his family. And it's just, that was such a good time, like around the time when like you and Griffin and Balfour and all those guys were on the team. That's when I kind of started falling in love with the game all over again.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know, like there's just like such good people in baseball too. Like just in general, because like if you spend way too much time together, that like, how do I say this? The folks that you don't want to be around don't last too long in the sport.
Yeah.
No matter what your position is, unless you're the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
But like, especially if you're like a staff member that causes issues, like there's no room for that. Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's just like by the time people get into professional baseball, like a lot of that's kind of weeded out anyway. And everyone's just so happy to be there in a way. Like, cause everyone's at their dream job at that point.
Yeah.
And if that's not your dream job, then you're in the wrong industry. Right.
I agree.
And so it's like, everyone's just generally happy and generally a good person when you get up there. Not obviously where we can't blanket the whole thing. But like it's pretty hard pressed to find somebody that is, you know, unwilling to be polite, cooperative, you know, say hi back kind of thing, right? But then there is the special ones like the Bo-Mels and the Stephen Vogts of the world that are just like almost like overly nice that you're like, that's okay, that's not fake, that's just
even you know, and here's a question I have for you. And you know, I'm so blessed with people like the Tony Kemps of the world and the Mark Kotze's. I have to remind myself that they're baseball guys, like they play the game. And I remember Tony once told me, he said, yeah, I play baseball, but I want to be known as like a good man. And that's how it is too. Like I'll be interviewing him like, oh crap, I have to do this for work. I feel like I'm just like chatting, not even necessarily with a friend, but like somebody I work with who I genuinely respect. And it's you can tell the guys apart from, like you mentioned, the ones that are going to have long careers. I can meet somebody and know he's going to be involved in the game for a long time quickly. And then on the other side, you can tell, like, you can get to the bigs, that's one thing, but staying in the game, as you know, is a totally different animal. Can you differentiate those two? Like if you're in a clubhouse, I mean, I'm sure it's not something that crosses your mind constantly, but if you meet somebody, you're like, this is a lifer, he's going to have like a 10-year career compared to the opposite who maybe just gets a cup of coffee.
I feel like you kind of can, in a way, differentiate just by knowing, like, if you just show up and see who just kind of sits on their phone and like looks uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that person's not going to turn into an everyday player that has some longevity in their careers. But I feel like there's certain clubhouses I've been in where you just genuinely get a sense of like Jay Bruce once told me, he said, you know, the sad part is I've seen so many guys come through this clubhouse that are in the big leagues that aren't big leaguers. And that made sense in a way. Like, it's like, it's not being disrespectful to the guys that made it. Like, they're very good. Like, that's not the point. But what he was saying was like, make sure that you go work your butt off and do everything you need to do to not just be able to say that you were a big leaguer, but to be able to say that you had a big league career. He's like, just make sure you don't get happy and complacent just to be here. Right. And it's like, I've had teammates before many times just say like, my goal is just to get one day. And I'm like, I can't relate to that.
Yeah.
I can't. Like, my goal was never one day. once I realized that the big leagues was an opportunity or an actual possibility for me, my goal was 10 years. And I felt like that hasn't changed. Like, yeah, is that a long shot? Sure. I've 5 years and change, but like that was the goal. Right. And it's like the whole shoot for the stars. And if you miss, you land on the moon kind of like saying, like, that was my goal the whole time. It wasn't one day. And so knowing who guys are day one, yeah, like that's impossible. Like, there's the obvious ones, the Harpers, the Trouts, and Shohei's special and Mookie's special, and all these guys, I'm sure from day one were just these super highly touted prospects. Then there's guys like Jerks and Profar that never lived up to that number one overall prospect, but has had an incredible career that so many people would wish they had. And there's so many of those stories out there where it's like, he never was that Fernando Tatis type player, but he had an amazing career. It's like all these things. And we had this long debate the other day about, did the Nationals mess up by drafting Strasburg over Trout back in the day? And we were like basically debating like, well, I mean, they won the series.
Yeah.
Like, they got it done with Strasburg there. I mean, yeah, you could have had Trout and Harper for a long time, and Soto. Imagine that outfield for a few years.
God.
But it's like there's no wrong answer when you get up to that caliber of player, right? Like there's any of them. You can build around any of them. And obviously with the beauty of hindsight is that it's really easy to get things right. But I know we've gone way off topic from your question here, but the whole thing with it is just like,
I forgot what I asked you. Okay, now I remember.
Well, there's like I'm saying, but there's just like all those guys, like those types of players when they walk in the clubhouse. Like Josh Donaldson. When I first met Josh Donaldson, he was like a $118 hitter in the show or whatever it was. He like made fun of himself when he came back down in AAA. And you see him going in there and you just see this guy that's just working so hard and like hitting 500 in AAA and then like under 200 in the big leagues. And all of a sudden it clicked. So like not everyone, when you meet them day one, like you can be like, oh, that's, you don't just get to like put them in buckets right away. Right. But like, there's definitely, I feel like some times where you're just like, when you meet the players that just are so happy to get there one day and feel very satisfied with that. You can almost not you can't tell, but like you can just definitely sense it sometimes where it's like this person's just extremely happy to be here.
Yeah.
And obviously they've worked their whole lives to get there, and they probably, but it's almost like they almost feel like an imposter. And maybe that's just a comfortability thing too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all that is. Maybe that's all that is. Because
maybe we got too deep. I don't know.
I think we did, but I don't think anyone that ever gets to the big leagues like doesn't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
I think that everyone that gets there, they don't just hand out big league starts. They don't just hand out big league call-ups.
I will say, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because over the last couple of seasons, David Forst, of course, the A's GM, the A's have been, definitely a lot of the guys are getting big league opportunities faster than perhaps they would get in other organizations. And he said, I'm not going to put anybody on a big league field unless I felt they were big league ready. And I genuinely believed him. I don't think he was at face value there. But in addition to the low payroll, we had a lot of injuries last season. So the turnover was insane. We had I think at one point we had all rookie starters in our rotation, which was insane. And so it just kind of, it makes you think of that. And I'm glad you brought up Profar. He's come a long way since I covered him when the Reno Aces were playing him. He was the beer batter for one of the games I was covering.
Nice.
Well, Hunter Pence was once too, which is really funny, when he was on like a rehab assignment.
Yeah, they always try to pick people they think aren't going to strike out.
Yeah.
They don't want to sell cheap beer. They want to sell expensive beer. No, but like I use him as an example because I've been playing against him since pretty much I got drafted. Like he was the guy. Like he was. Yeah. Until that feller named Trout, everyone realized how good he was. It was Profar. It was all about Profar. We share a financial advisor too. So like I hear about, like, not about his finances, but I hear about I hear about stories about Profar, especially like when he signed or this or that, or Profar. So I hear his name every now and then simply from our connection there.
Yeah.
Andy Pettit's in that same company too. So I hear about Again, not about Andy Pettitt's finances.
I would love to know that. That's a
that would
different
be
podcast. Like, continue. Yes.
right. I know, but I hear about these people over and over again just throughout the meetings and stuff that we have. But baseball is funny. People never get called up if you're not good enough, plain and simple. And I guess sometimes teams are able to establish quicker than others that this person actually wasn't as good or as ready as we expected. Or there's also this real thing called like pressure that a lot of people have a hard time getting over. It's not.
Yeah.
If you've never done it, it's intimidating to go grab a baseball and go throw in front of 30,000 people. But my first big league start was in the Oakland Coliseum in a sold out Friday night game against the Blue Jays. I'd never pitched in front of 30,000 people, but like, I didn't notice them. I heard them. I felt them, but like, I was so ready to be there and so locked in that I didn't even notice it.
What do you mean you didn't notice them? That's kind of crazy to hear.
I was so incredibly focused on what I was doing that like, oh my gosh, I walked out of the dugout. And for anybody that doesn't know much about the Coliseum, like it's like you kind of walk out from the clubhouse pretty much directly behind home plate. And then you kind of swing to the left, and then so the fans kind of see you there. And I hit the dugout, dropped my stuff off, started walking out, and the whole left side of the stadium just started chanting my name. And I was just like, oh God, they know me. They know who I am. Like oh my gosh. That's kind of like
right field Will in your corner. You're unstoppable.
Yeah. But I went out there and I legit didn't throw one strike in warmups. And then I threw 70 strikes in the game. One of like a handful of rookies to ever do that. Very first start ever to throw 70 strikes. And it was just AJ Griffin was one of them too. But it was just like one of those things, like I was ready to be there. Like I was prepared, and I was just, the A's nailed it with when they called me up. Absolutely nailed it. And I don't know if they meant to do it on a Friday night sellout or what, but like they absolutely nailed it. But when I say I didn't,
be welcomed. Yeah.
When I say I didn't notice it, I think I was too scared to look up. I was so focused on like, don't mess this up. And I almost got pulled in the first.
Really?
I almost got pulled in the first. Bomel almost came and got me in the first. Evan Scribner was warming up in the first because I threw 29 pitches in the first, and they would not let me go past 35.
Wow.
But my big league career started off with like a 12 pitch first at bat. Like that was the first. Nothing happened.
Nobody scored. It.
I was just milk. I just want this moment. I just want.
Like I'm just gonna really milk this moment. Yeah.
And so it was a 12 pitch. I think it was 12 pitch at bat to start my career off, and it was like, but Bomo had to get somebody going in the first inning. So I almost didn't make it out of the first in my big league debut. No one scored.
No, yeah.
Nothing happened, but I almost didn't get out of it.
Well, when it comes to some of these at bats, though, what is a memorable outing / memorable at bat for you? What makes that one that you won't forget?
Oh man, one outing that I think that I went into San Francisco and pitched in the 9th inning 2 days before my son was born.
Wow.
Took a shutout into the 9th inning. I've only gone out for the 9th inning one time in my big league career. Like It's not something that you get to do too often, right? So I got there for the 9th inning and I walk off the field and I was so hyper focused. I told my trainers knew, Amanda knew, everybody knew that I set a hard cutoff at 3:00. The game was at 6. I set a hard cutoff at 3:00. The team was on board with it. They were very supportive. But I said, if Amanda goes into labor before 3, I have to go back to Miami. We're in San Francisco.
Oh, that's right.
And so I said, if she goes into labor before 3, like I have to go. 3:00 came. I put my phone away, which was really hard to do because I needed my music. So like I put it like on airplane mode, and she knew to text the trainer. And like if she was going to the hospital, like text the trainer, and he knew not to let me know until I was done. I avoided him like the plague the entire game because I did not want to like read into his body language or anything. Well, what happened is that I started pitching, and like there's no other care, there's no other thought in the world when you're pitching,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're pitching in the big leagues in front of sold out. Forget what it was called then or what it's called now, but when you're facing Oracle now. Yeah, I don't want to get things wrong.
I don't know what it was back then. Who knows?
AT&T, I think. But when you go in there and you're pitching and like there's no other thoughts, and like I come out and I gave up a home run in the 9th, so I get pulled out. We're up like 7-1. I get pulled out, and Tom Kohler gives me a hug, and he's like, "Hell of a job, brother." But it's crazy to think that's not even going to be the coolest part of your week. And I was like, "Oh yeah!" Like I was so just like in the game that I forgot that my wife was literally like about ready to burst. And
gosh.
I actually didn't even sleep that night. I had a flight out of there. They never actually put me like on the
Paternity list.
The paternity list. I went to the airport the next morning at 6 and flew out back to Miami. Got delayed somewhere. Didn't get home until like later in the day. And we went to the hospital at 2 a.m. And then, so now it's Sunday morning. Jackson was born Sunday night. And then the All-Star break started Monday.
So Jackson was born in Miami. He's a Dale baby.
He is. He's Cuban by association is what they
love that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
We were the only English speakers as a first language in the entire like wing of the hospital, I swear.
Yeah.
Like they were like they all spoke English, but like they were when they were communicating with each other, it was all in Spanish, and it was like didn't bother us one bit, right? Like we just so grateful, and so like the people there were just absolutely amazing. But Jackson was born and spent 7 days in the NICU. He just wanted a vacation, I guess, and not come home with us. But he
was also milking his entrance.
He was, he was. But my GM called me on Monday to tell me congratulations. And at the end of the conversation, just slides in are you good to start Friday against the Dodgers? I was like, yeah, you bet. Like, sounds good. I was more pissed that I didn't get an All-Star nod than the game was in Miami, and I had like a 3-2 at the break, and like guys with like 4+ were getting into the All-Star game, and I was just like, come on, like it's in our home park. Like I'm leading the league. I have way better numbers than these guys, but they're getting the nod. So I was really, when he called me, I was actually more hopeful he was calling me to tell me that I was being added. Because I'm right there. But so that was probably, and I know that wasn't so much baseball game. I probably wasn't the answer you're looking for, but that's the answer I have for you. Like that game for me, I couldn't tell you so much about like what happened in the game, as I could tell you about like everything around it. That was just magical. Some of the other ones that really come to mind are there's actually a game where I walked 7 people. I think I went 7 innings and gave up 1 run on a solo homer. And for some reason, that one just like stuck out. Another one is I went into Angel Stadium and I 52 pitches through 2 innings. 52 pitches through 2 innings. And no one scored. And I was just like, this is absurd. Like, figure it out. I finished the 7th inning at 102 pitches. Mm-hmm. And we were tied, and it was Jerry Blevins' like first save as an A or something like that. Like Donaldson made a sick play to end the game, and it was just like something epic, like bases loaded, nobody out, like got out of it kind of thing. But that was on my dad's birthday in Anaheim, where I was like 52 pitches through. I could probably done that 5 times in my life, but all of the time, every time I'm through 2 innings and at like 50 pitches, I revert back to like, you've done this before. Like, go force contact, pound the zone, like get back in the zone. Like, cause it's like, it's one of those things when you're a struggling pitcher on the mound of the strikes. It's not that you are afraid. It's not that you are, nibbling, I think is the word that you use. It's, you're just missing. Like, it's just, you're just not, you just don't have it in that moment. Right.
Wow.
So it's like, I revert back to those things. I think my favorite game result wise, might've been, I punched out 14 Padres in one night. That was really fun. Until that fella I talked about earlier, Strasburg, did it like 2 days later. But for 2 days, I had the most strikeouts in a single game for the season going for 2 days until Strasburg tied me. And then when I got my lone start in the playoffs for the A's back in 2013, I think will forever be a game that I don't remember, but a game that I'm very proud of.
Mm,
Completely blacked out on the mound.
really?
Yeah, not by like drugs or alcohol, just by like just stress, just energy, excitement, you name it.
Have you ever felt like that before in an outing?
No,
Mm,
no, I was so locked in. Like again, quality start in the playoffs. Like
yeah.
I gave up a homer that like I want the pitch back to this day.
Mm,
But like it's just yeah, what an incredible experience to be. The year before, Gil Patterson, the A's pitching coordinator, I called him because we clinched the playoffs when Josh Hamilton had his old Butterfinger moment out in the outfield, and so I got called into the office and told, hey, you're one of the 5 guys that we're going to send down to Arizona to instructs to stay ready. You're not making the roster for the playoffs, but I got down to Arizona and marched straight into Gil's office with Keith Littman and was like, listen, I want you guys to be as honest with me as you possibly can be. Tell me what is missing from my game so that next year you guys are begging me to be the starting pitcher in the playoffs, not telling me to go to Arizona to stay ready. I'm not mad at you guys for sending me here. I just want to know like full honest evaluation. Why me? What is missing? Why am I not good enough to be there right now? What do I need to go work on? Because last year when I didn't get to go to not to instructs, instructs. I said when they came around and asked everybody, or told everybody who was going to instructs, and I said, hey, how come I'm not going? And he was like, well, what are you going to do? Come work on your suntan? Which he was being complimentary of saying like, you have nothing to work on. Like you need to go home and rest. And I was thinking like, well, I always think of it as an honor to go to instructs. If you think of it as like, man, why do I have to go to instructs? Like, what are you doing? Why? This is your job. This is your sport. This is your game. Like, you get to go literally just go play baseball for another 6 weeks in Arizona in the fall and golf the other days. Like, why would you not be excited about that? And so like, a year later when I don't get to make the playoff roster, I'm like, what's missing? What do I not have going for me that you guys want? And so like those things, the next year when I got a chance and they called me in the office and said, hey, we're going to have you start game 4 of the playoffs. I was just like, all right, sounds great. See you then. And it was like, we had all this stuff going and, but to be able to go into that atmosphere and in Detroit and be able to walk away 6 innings later of a tie ball game,
wow.
Was, and at that point, handing the ball over to Doolittle, was giving him the ball in a tie ball game. Like, you got to like your chances as an Oakland A. And I'm sure if I say this, there's going to be a bunch of A's fans that are like, why didn't you throw another slider? Because I gave up a homer on a fastball. And it was just one of those things, like the ball hit off and maybe an inch past Cespedes' glove. It was that close to being caught. If you look it up, it's going to break my heart. But,
that's right.
It was, it's just one of those things like that forever is just like burned in my brain. But, I struck him out on fastball or double play on a fastball earlier in the game. And he just, he was one of the, it's funny. He actually wouldn't be allowed to play in the game today because if you get banned for steroids, you aren't eligible to play in the playoffs that year. Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Mr. Peralta's homer wouldn't have happened because he wouldn't have been there. No, I could have given up to somebody else. I'm not saying that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
What about the business side? Because you told this really cool story about how Jed Hoyer approached you. He said he was proud of you. This was after a trade went down.
Yeah.
And you got to see the business side. And you even told him you knew it was part of the game. How early on did you notice that there was, obviously the game is a business, but that you were personally subjected to the fact that this is definitely a business game?
You ever seen Bull Durham?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So my first stint in the big leagues was 17 days, right?
Uh-huh.
So Bull Durham's greatest 17 days of my life, right?
Uh-huh.
So day 18 actually, in my big league career, I got optioned for the very first time.
Okay.
That was the day that it hit me that you can go back down. Yeah. Like I was just so ignorant to the fact that
because you thought you'd just stay there.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean Brett Anderson's coming off injury? Why do I have to go? Because he's healthy. Like I 23-year-old kid out here just throwing baseballs. You know what I mean? Like this was, like I said, that Twitter app was like pretty new. And we didn't have this wealth of knowledge that we have now. I didn't realize how many roster moves were made in baseball before that. I didn't realize how many times guys went up and down. I didn't notice that stuff. I wasn't keeping track of transaction counters. So that was really the first time that I realized that like, this is a thing. Like this is a big thing. And then, right before the A's traded me to the Cubs, Billy Owens, showed up to town.
I love Billy O.
And he sat in the seat behind me while I was charting. And for 2 straight games, spent 6 hours talking to me. And I didn't know this in the time, but he was preparing me mentally to be traded. Like the hindsight of the conversation was like, that's what Billy was talking about.
What was he saying?
He was talking to me about how early in his career, Scherzer was a Diamondback, and how like something just wasn't clicking anymore there, and how he got traded to Detroit and things took off. And he was talking to me about being confident as a pitcher. He was talking to me about a lot of things about, being open when things aren't feeling great mechanically or injury or whatever the situation, just being really, just really teaching me some small nuances that I didn't realize was missing from my game.
Wow.
And ultimately when I got traded, it was way too long of a conversation over 2 days for me to really to recap it. Like I feel like that doesn't do it justice at all. But just from anybody that knows him, just for such a good, compassionate human being. I
love him.
And an excellent, just an absolute excellent baseball mind too. And great evaluator. But like, he obviously knew what was going on behind the scenes, and that I was being shopped around, or the Cubs asked for me, or whatever the situation was. But he prepared me for that moment without telling me. He was preparing me for that moment.
When did it hit you? When did it hit you that this conversation was attached to the trade?
I got traded 2 weeks later, and
you were like, this is what Billy was talking about? Yeah,
instantly. So as soon as it happened, I knew what was going on, like in my head, because I could tell you that story in a second. But when this whole thing was going down, and it was like all of a sudden everything Billy was saying was like he was just making sure that I wasn't gonna like take this the wrong way. Not from like a personal standpoint, from like a keep your head up, keep going. Don't take this as like somebody's not into you. Don't take this as somebody's. And he didn't say any of that directly, but he said it throughout conversation many different ways.
Like how Billy does it. There's like a poetry.
There's layers. Yeah. And it was just like, but like in the moment, I thought he was just talking to me. Right. But he, so when I got traded from the A's, I was just in the dugout. We were playing in Reno, and like mid-inning, all of a sudden the trainer's on the phone in the corner, and he like runs over to the manager, says something, shows him his phone. Manager calls time, mid-inning, calls time, walks out, talks to the umpire for a second. Center fielder comes jogging off the field. Somebody else is like, hey, you just got DFA'd, man. Like, you got to come out of the game.
Wow.
And then I was like, looked down, and I was like, we got 2 players on the bench. And I'm like, so I kind of walk over to Bushy, and I'm like, hey, like, was it Bushy or Scars? I forget. I think it might have been Scarsoni then. And I walk over to him and I said, hey, do you mean to go spike up, like, as like a potential, like if somebody else gets hurt? And he's like, Dan, you actually just got traded. And he was like, can you please wait in the clubhouse for me after the game? He's like, I don't want to say goodbye like this. And so I went inside and called my agent and did all that kind of stuff. But like I said, we were in Reno. So
was it Fran? Or no, Bush? It was Bushy?
It was.
Oh, we don't know yet? Okay.
2014. I don't remember if it was, I think it might have been, I think it was Scars at that point. Steve Scarsoni, I think, was the AAA manager. It was Scars. It was Steve.
Yeah.
And so it was, it's just kind of this like weird. So I get up the next morning and I drive or take a taxi because I don't think Uber was even a thing really.
Uber
Took a
wasn't around
taxi,
then, yeah.
took a taxi over to
Reno
the.
for sure got Ubers later, so I knew that.
I don't know if I'd take a Uber there anyway, but I went to the airport and picked up a rental car at like 5. Like they don't even open super early, so I had like waiting at the counter. And I had a flight out of Sacramento at like 11. And so I'm like trying to drive over, get my stuff. And then I flew Amanda and her dad down to Sacramento later that day. Texted her dad's like, his name's Jeff. And I was like, Jeff, I'm real sorry, but when you pick my truck up, it needs an oil change before you drive back to Oregon. So I'm sorry, but I gotta go. So I dropped my stuff off, and luckily, like I was at, I didn't come from a lot of money family. I didn't come, I was very humble. We didn't have a lack of, but I'm saying we didn't have like this absurd amount of funds growing up and stuff. And so I was on my own as young 20s broke minor league baseball player, and my family all comes from firefighter backgrounds. And so my uncle was calling all these places. And so I was actually staying with a firefighter family. So
love that.
I didn't have a lease to break. I didn't have all this kind of stuff, but I had a host family every single minor league team I played for until I got called to the big leagues. And even after I was in the big leagues, I still stayed with the Rice family in Sacramento every time that I was back there. So that made it a lot easier getting out of town. But then, so I had that whole drive, and then I had that whole flight over to Oklahoma City from Sacramento to just like digest. That's what Billy was talking about.
Wow.
And it just like really started to like settle in that like, okay, like I was at the belief system that like I was going to be like the Derek Jeter of the Oakland A's, that I was going to play for 17 years as a pitcher for the A's and bring all this glory to the A's and win the World Series with the A's. And like, that was like what was just like in my head. And when I got traded, it was tough, but like those little conversations along the way, like helped me a lot. So yeah, like those are some of the memorable moments of the career of the stuff right there. And then the side of the business of it, like you asked, like that was the most business I'd been to that point. Like that was when I really started realizing that this was a business, not just something I get to do for my life, like livelihood, like that there's dollars and cents on the back end of this, and that you're actually just a commodity. And if somebody believes your value is greater or less than your paycheck, then you're being moved. And if they can make money on you, like you're being traded like a stock when you go from one team to another. If they think your value's high and they're buying on you, like that's just how it works. And it's weird when you put it that way, but that's how it is. And just kind of living in it feels weird to say it that way, but at the end of the day, that's what we are as ball players, is entertainers and commodities, to however you want to look at it. But I think that's how it probably gets put down on the old tax ID.
That's crazy. And that didn't, like, I don't want to say deter you, but does it change your mental state at all? Like, because when you have your idea of baseball in your head, of course it's going to change over the years, because it's no longer, you're getting paid for it comparatively when you start it. So does it change your mentality or your relationship toward the game at all?
No, I feel like if it does, it just makes you a better person. Like I've been around so many people in my career that are just so against. It's never just like an honest self-evaluation. It's more of, just the business got me. And it's like, well, as Jed Hoyer once said, big leaguers find their way to the big leagues. And just if you got businessed by one team, doesn't mean that, my agent put it a different way for me. I went into Astros camp in 2016, and they had 5 players that were out of options. I was the only one that they didn't trade or DFA. And so it's my second year with the organization. I'm on the 40-man roster. I'm out of options. But like, I don't know where I fit in because I didn't have much of a role on the team the year before. And I just didn't know where I stood. And my agent said to me, he goes, well, the beauty of getting DFA'd is, right away where you stand. Right away if you have something to work on or if team A was just wrong. And so I ultimately got traded 3 days to go in spring training to the Padres, who watched me pitch for 4 innings and then DFA'd me. And then I was claimed by the Reds and went and hung out with your boy Joey Votto for the year. Mm-hmm. And so I had this like giant chip on my shoulder the first time I got DFA'd of like, you thought I was good. You thought I was bad enough to fall through waivers. You were just going to send me to your AAA team. Like, showed you, it's like this, like kind of like chip on my shoulder of like, I'm not broken. Like, you're the one that just doesn't know how to evaluate good. You know what I mean? Like, it was almost like that kind of mentality. And when I did get DFA'd again by the Orioles years later, and did not get claimed and went to AAA, I showed up to AAA with those conversations in mind and went straight to, okay, I remember sitting on the airplane and writing down what's broken, how can I fix it? And started making this big list of like very simple, like my fastball is broken. How can I fix it? Because I didn't get claimed, therefore the game is telling me I have things I need to work on. Like that's the way I took it. So like, instead of just being like, poor me, stupid business, it was, how can I be better?
Okay. That's a healthy mindset.
But now that I sit here and say that, I realize like, that's what I kind of did my whole career.
Okay.
Right. When I didn't make the playoff roster, hey, what can I do to make sure that you're begging me to pitch that game next year? Hey, what can I do to be a better version of myself? Hey, what's missing? I feel like there's so many times as athletes that we get caught up in what's going on around us, and we forget to just focus and control what we can control. And in baseball, that's not much, but at the same time, that makes our lives a little simpler, right? I can control my work ethic. I can control my attitude. I can control my punctuality for the most part. I can control what time I'm going to bed. I can control a lot of things. Yeah. But I can't control.
Not everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't control when I get optioned, play better. Okay. What's that mean? It's like a coach coming out there and saying, hey, throw strikes. Like, okay. I was trying. What do you think I was trying to do, coach?
Interesting. Let me think about that.
What a concept. No. So like, there's just like, there's so much to this, like, the business of baseball. Yeah. It sucks. I'm sure that the best in the game have their stories, right? Yeah. Now, I had a buddy of mine. I just learned this the other day. I didn't realize this, but he got DFA'd while he was on paternity leave. So his child was being born. And he got DFA'd and, happiest day of his life. Okay, now I got to go figure out what's going on here. And so he like messaged into the clubhouse and was just like, hey, how can I get my stuff?
Yeah.
And the response was pretty much like, not our problem. You figure it out. And he's just like, dude, I went to my wife to give birth to our child. Like, it's not like I just struck out 4 times tonight and got let go while I'm in the clubhouse. Like,
or just walked out or anything. Like,
yeah. Like, and so it's just like, and I'm sure that's like a one-off situation, but it's like there is that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And you name the industry. I'm sure we've all had situations in any job. Like, I'm not complaining.
How often I'm always asked, like, who is the rudest baseball player to work with?
Who cares?
And that's the thing too. Like, I'm very lucky on that regard, but also like, isn't that the same question I would ask a normal, like 9-to-5 guy who works in a cubicle? Like, how do you get along with, I don't want to say Bob because we love Bobs, but like Brent or whoever, you know what I mean? So
what do you have against Brent?
I know. And I was thinking about Rooker and I'm like, I love Brent. Brent's great, but it's just, one of those things, but
yeah. No. And it's like, it is a weird job, but at the end of the day, like, it is a job. Like, let's not pretend like it's anything,
And there are
It's a
days
very
where
desirable job.
it feels like a job
Yeah.
sometimes, not all the time, especially in my, like, I love my job, but I'm glad it sometimes feels like a job because it reminds me that this could go away any second.
Yeah, no, I, as you know, anybody listening to this might not know, but Seth Brown, the A's player, he lives just a few minutes from me. And so, we're around each other a lot in the off seasons and whatnot, but he was not complaining, but talking about some of the flights and how long they are and this and that. And I was like, dude,
He doesn't like flying though. He hates flying.
I was like, I'll come fly for you. I'd love to be in the big leagues. And he's like, I don't know. Okay, I hear you. Like, I know what you're saying. But yeah, you just like, there's just so much of this game that just like is, there's so many like just aspects of it that people don't realize.
Right.
There's so much more. Like, that's the whole thing. The whole point of like the podcast that I run, the Journeyman podcast, is like to tell this game from so many different points of view.
Yeah.
And not necessarily by the superstars. Not that they don't have their own cool stories to go with it, but their stories are being told by The Athletic, by everybody, right? Like, they're the ones that are being pumped out by the league. And there's just so much more to this game. And it's the point of it's not to like, it's to celebrate it. To celebrate the game in different points of view is really the point. And so all these things are being said, the business sucks. It's this, it's that, but like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, I purposefully got into this, and everybody's job has its thing that sucks. Right.
Yeah.
And we all complain about it, but like, it doesn't mean that we don't like it. It doesn't mean that we don't love it. Right. It's like my dad, whenever he gets upset about his job, he drives a forklift, right? Like, he's a hardworking swing shift guy that just drives a forklift at night and is loading up trucks. And I know there's more to it than that, Dad, but he's doing this, and like, he gets frustrated sometimes, like we all do. And I said, I bet you don't get frustrated when that paycheck rolls in, though.
Right. Right.
It's the same kind of thing, right? Like, it's
we have first world problems, like, and it's okay to complain. Like, we're faulted. We're humans. We're gonna, there's times where like I'd have to call a game I do pre and post, and I'm really struggling mentally, and there's nothing I can do to get out of it. There's nothing I can do to make myself feel better. But the moment I press record, Mama's good. Like, I'm good. And it's no different when I talk to the guys. They're like, I could have like the worst day of my life. Yeah. Sometimes like the moment I'm in between those lines, like, everything's good. Everything's gone. Yeah. And I think I need that too, so you can kind of flip the narrative a little bit.
I forgot my wife was pregnant while I was pitching. So like, I totally get it. Like,
I
totally get it.
You're probably making a lot of guys feel better listening to this. Like, the next time they're like, somebody's complaining, like, well, Dan Straily forgot his wife was pregnant. Like, not even pregnant, but about to give birth.
Like 24 hours later, I was going to be a diaper changing human being. And I don't want to get into the debate of when I became a dad, but I was going to say, I was going to say became a dad the next day. No, but my wife giving that close to giving birth, and me like coming off the mound, like just more pumped than I pitched in the ninth than about that. Oh man. But so like,
real,
it's get it. But at the same time though, like, that's what I talked about, how like, you're an athlete, you're a performer, you're a personality, like, it's a multifaceted gig, right? So when you are a performer, you're not allowed to have ill performances, right?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if like you went to Hamilton and like he forgot the words to the song one night? Like, you'd be so pissed as the consumer. So like, I get it. When you show up to the baseball field and you expect Clayton Kershaw to be Clayton Kershaw and he has an off night, like, you're pissed. Like, you're still happy that your favorite pitcher just went out there and like, you're got to come watch him pitch. But like, if he goes out there and like gives up 5 runs in 5 innings, you're just like, and it's the Dodgers, so he probably won.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's the Dodgers, so he probably won, even though he gave up 5 runs.
Totally.
Funny story about that. So he won his 20th game in Chicago in 2014 when I got traded to the Cubs. And I was standing on deck watching in the 5th inning, watching Clayton like just struggling, and he had given up 5 runs, but I was the long guy on the bullpen, and so I was in the game early. So they were up big, but Clayton was 119 pitches in the 5th inning, trying to get his 20th win of the season, and I could tell they thought about walking whoever was hitting in front of me, because AJ Ellis looked over and saw me and was just like, okay, so if we don't get him, we're definitely getting him. So we're going to get through this game. But it's all, I talked to AJ about this later, but it was like, all they wanted to do was like, just get Clayton that win. So he gave up 5 runs and got the win. But the point was that, like, as an entertainer, there's so little margin for error.
Yeah.
That people expect certain quality, right? That when you come to consume that event, you expect it to be at a certain level. And I think that is a much bigger issue across the sport than anybody ever talks about, organizationally, from place to place. But that is ultimately your goal as an athlete, is to be the best performer you can be, because that's what it's all about. Is when you get on the field, it's all geared toward how can I be the best performer, right? And so when you're not allowed to fail, that's when the stress starts piling on, right? And then that's when it becomes perceived stress versus like actual stress, because I can't tell you how many times like I had a bad game and, I'd be beating myself up about it. And I'd finally like talk to like my pitching coordinator and call up Gil and just be like, Gil, man, I can't. He'd be like, Dan, I didn't even think about it when I got home last night. Like,
really?
That just wasn't you. And like, it happened. So I was pretty young when I realized, like, okay, I'm allowed to fail a little bit.
That's baseball, though. Like, it's so weird when you think about it. Like, the best hitter in the league struggles 2 out of 3 times.
Right.
Like, fails 2 out of 3 times, I should say.
Right. And then you just, it's crazy when you think about it that way. But like, quality start is like another one that I like to talk about when reference to this, because a quality start is what, 6 innings and 3 runs, which is a 4.5 ERA. More often than not, if somebody goes out there and I say I went up there and I gave you 32 starts, 32 quality starts, every single one of them, 6 innings, 3 runs, and a 4.5 ERA. You're probably trying to find somebody to replace me.
Yes. Yeah.
But like, that's the benchmark. Like, that is the benchmark that was set. So do you see some of the issues with being a performer in this industry is, and I'm not asking for sympathy. That's not at all what I'm getting at.
Oh, I don't feel sorry for you at all. No.
But like, when you get to that point where it's like, even the standard that was set by everybody, that this is what's called quality, is not good enough. It's like you just keep chasing perfection. That's all you're doing. You're chasing perfection, knowing it's unattainable, and that's all this baseball game has ever been from the players that step foot on that field. How many at bats has anyone ever taken 1,000% batting average? 1,000%. That doesn't make sense. That was really a batting average of 1,000. How far has anyone ever taken that into a season?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not in a second game.
Maybe a second game, right? Does anyone ever go 4 for 4 opening day and then keep it going? Like, at some point, it's like this game is just, obviously it's all about failure. Like, that's not like something we're
well, and Tony Kemp once told me baseball players are playing the game of failure at the highest level of professionalism.
Yes. Under a microscope.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like the standards you have to meet they're impossible. They're impossible. And you're you have all these, like, all the monetary value of these contracts being thrown at y'all not just, like these big players. I'm not saying you're not a big player, but you know what I mean? But like these crazy contracts being handed out, and they're supposed to live up to that expectation when you're already starting off, like, you're going to screw up constantly. But we're still going to
what does Shohei Ohtani have to do to not get booed at some point for making $70 million a year for a decade?
And it's the Dodgers too, so he's going to be booed no matter what. But
right,
yeah.
But the point is like, he's probably worth it. Like,
yeah, totally.
Because the Dodgers are going to make that money.
Yeah.
Like they don't just like, oh, throw this number out there. Like they look at all of it. They look at the ticket sales. They look at the TV
ROI.
rights. How much money is
ROI.
he going to bring in? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I get it. I totally get it. And it's great. But like his margin for error is probably pretty big. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it'd take quite a bit for him to be booed.
Yeah.
Just because like he's such like, it just seems like such a fun, loving, happy personality. You know, and it's like when you keep that kind of persona going too, like people love you.
Yeah.
Like it's, you know, no one, if he was the villain, might not have gotten the contract, but also too, like people point out every little thing you do wrong where it's like he can go out there and strike out 4 times and people are just like, hey dude, you'll be good.
Do you really think if he was like a butthead, he wouldn't have gotten that number?
I think it plays into it.
Mm.
I think it plays into it. I think that, yeah, like no one wants to have those kind of contracts sitting around with players that are
it's still off the field stuff. Like the numbers are involved. Like you said, it's not just what happens on the field. Like there's
there's a lot that goes into it, right? And I'm not gonna pretend like I've ever been a part of one front office conversation about these kind of things, but like there's no way that like they don't know what kind of person he is off the field too before you give him that kind of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the kind of, it's a very public job in a very public city,
they had
a very public market.
They had a Kobe Bryant hologram. Like,
yeah,
that was sealed the deal. Done.
That's an insane. I mean, he even said, nobody talk about who I'm meeting with or it's over.
Yeah.
And they accidentally said something and he still went there. You know what I mean? Like it was meant to be. But and they let the Angels be the proof of concept, you know? They let the Angels have him for 6 years to get his Tommy John out of the way and you know, his first one out of the way and get him into proof of concept out before they paid him. They probably wanted to pay him that when he first came over, but they were just like, yeah, we'll let him him dabble across town first.
I asked Eduardo Perez this question because, you know, he had a playing career of his own. But like when you've been involved in the game for so long, bring me back to like your rookie season. If I were to tell you that there was a guy that was going to get this type of not only contract, but he was going to turn baseball into an international, you know, sensation, how would you respond to that if you had like a crystal ball?
I mean, back when I was a rookie, I just wish you would have given me today's minimum. That would have been nice.
What was the minimum when you were playing? Was it 250? 490. Okay.
490. No, I got to avoid those days. I came in. It was still higher at that. You know, obviously, at that point, it was the highest it's ever been. But it was not 7, whatever it is now.
Yeah.
No, but maybe a little unbelievable at that point that like anybody could have been bigger than Jeter and Ichiro and Clayton. You know, in terms of like what this game looks like. You know, there was Albert Pujols was just like an absolute, just stud. You had Miguel Cabrera, and you just would have been like, well, the guy that's actually going to do all this is playing over in the MPB right now.
Yeah,
he'll be here in a few years. I would have been like, yeah, I'm sure. You know,
I'm
sure he is. I'm sure he'll be here right away.
Right, sure.
You know, and it's like we basically got, you know, a different version and a two-way player. But you think about the 2 major names that came over from Japan in the last whatever decades between Ichiro and Shohei that have really blown this game up over in Asia. Like you see it just with how much media follows those guys. Like those guys are absolute. I played with Wei Yin Chin. So he's from Taiwan, right? And he has a great career in Baltimore. Gets his payday, comes to Miami, struggles, all this kind of stuff. I never really thought of it this way until I got to know him a little bit better. Like when he leaves the airport to come back to America, there's like thousands upon thousands of people with signs and wishing him best of luck and good health and just cheering him on. And thousands upon thousands of people show up to the airport to see him off. And then he shows up to Miami where like probably most of the people walk right past him and not even know who he is. Right. And so it's like the game is just different over there. And I've played over there. That's why I'm able to say that the game is, and I haven't played in Japan, but like I've played over in Asia, and the game's just a little different, right? So when these when these superstars come over, they're already a known thing. Like their country already like is infatuated. They come over here and experience that level of success. It just blows this game up even more and more, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't think it could get bigger than like what Ichiro did. Like personally, like to what he hit his 7th at bat or whatever it was, he went over 300 and never went back again his entire career. That was like that last time his career batting average was under 300. And it's like, you know, just the stuff he did was just incredible as a ball player. And it's like, it got topped in a way with what Shohei did with being a two-way player. And it's just like, makes me wonder, like, what's the next guy to come over here going to do? Like, what else?
Or like a megalodon situation. Yeah.
Right. Cause like we have our homegrown players that are studs. Right. So there's the Judges and the Trouts of the world. And, watching like just some of these guys that just mash baseballs. And then, then we have all the Latin American guys that come up and they're just incredible. And now we're getting these guys from Asia coming over. And it just makes me wonder, like, if they are able to get into Africa and into India and get some of these other, other places involved with our sport, what could be waiting? Like, what if there's like just like a plethora of 110 mile an hour throwers in some country we didn't know existed that are out there and they're just chucking rocks at coconuts to get them out of the trees, and all of a sudden you give them a baseball and it's like the easiest thing they've ever done. So you're just like, what's next? What's next? Right. And it's just kind of, and obviously they're trying to start baseball up over in India with that other baseball league. And so maybe we'll find some crazy arms that are converting from cricket to baseball because whatever reason they like it better.
Is that Baseball United? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that one's Baseball United.
Did you ever get any offers from them?
No, I never heard anything from them. But the just like the whole thing, it's like the game is just growing globally, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's also important that MLB, whatever this looks like, it's easy to say because I'm not there. As long as they are able to make sure that they still have the premium product, then look at the premium players. Pay them the premium price, and the game will keep growing from that aspect, right? Yeah. But I just really think it's awesome to keep including the best players from all over the planet, getting them in to come to MLB, then includes more countries, includes more people. And quite honestly, like, that's all I ever wanted to see for this game. Like, have my personal success, go compete at the highest levels, go face the best players in the world, and like try to win a world championship with wherever my feet are then, and try to be the best version of myself wherever I'm at the time. Right. But see this game keep continuing to grow globally, so that it's thriving, healthy, and hopefully I get to watch my son do it someday. Like that would be, who knows if it'll ever happen or if he even wants to. Right now, I think piano is winning, that he likes piano more than baseball, but piano is pretty new. So he thinks it's the coolest thing ever. But it is just an awesome experience to see that. But like, as long as this game keeps growing, keeps being America's pastime, then like I'm all for whoever comes over next. Cause it's just, I love to see it. I love to see the type of game where we had with the end of WBC with Ohtani facing Trout, right? Like,
oh yeah, that was awesome.
Like, that's the kind of stuff that people want to see in this game. Right. And so
definitely. All right, last one before I let you go. And this isn't just a question, it's just I love telling this story, but like a full circle moment that you and I have. When I went to a fan fest, like it wasn't that long ago because you and I are still very young. But I was just a long time ago. It was a long time ago. I was just a fan. I think I was maybe blogging a little bit for fun. And my boyfriend at the time, he didn't go with me, but we had a Q&A with like all the A's players, and you were to tweet at the A's players. So my boyfriend, who was a big Dan Straily fan, I was like, Dan's like doing Q&A. What should I ask him? And he said, well, ask him what round I should draft him in my fantasy league. And then you responded first round or something like that. And I was like, oh, Dan responded. And the next thing you know, like you're in randomly, because it was at Oracle Arena where we had it. And you were randomly, and I hate asking for autographs. I hate it so much, but I got it for my boyfriend. And I told you that I asked you the question. You signed it. I still have the autograph. My boyfriend didn't keep it. I got it in the divorce. Okay. But it was a funny moment because I love you now. I hadn't heard of you really much. Fair. And then he was so excited that like you were there, which was awesome. So it was a fun little moment. I still have it somewhere. I was trying to go look for it earlier, but I didn't put that much effort into it. But it's on, I remember the card because it's on a Coliseum card. And
like a napkin?
No, it was like an actual Topps card.
Oh, okay.
An actual card. Yeah. Like, and you sign it and and now here you are on my podcast.
There we go. Thanks for having me. Probably kept you a little longer than you wanted to, but
I knew you would though. You like, I think I can talk, but you always out talk me, which is like hard to do.
Amanda was like,
yeah, how did you out talk Jess?
Well, Amanda goes, how long do you think you're going to be? And I was like, probably like 30 minutes. And she goes, okay.
This has happened before too. Like you and I just kept talking and it just like the next thing, I'm like, we should probably like stop this, but no.
Well, we have a hard cutoff on the Journeyman because we get the same way. And there's 4 of us now that run that. And so it's like,
oh my gosh, that's
we try to have like a hard cutoff on an hour.
Yeah.
And we needed help. So I can tell you that story later, but we have to do it because we're a bunch of talkers.
I get it. As am I. Well, thanks so much. And hopefully soon I get to report on your new team.
Breaking news. Let's see if my agent texted me. I've been wondering for the last 30 minutes. Nope. All right. Well, let's go ahead and we'll end it how we started it. All right.
Yeah. Just like, this is just whatever. That was veteran free agent pitcher Dan Straily here on Short and to the Point. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys every single week. We're having so much fun on this podcast, and I'm excited to go back to my baseball roots with Dan Straily, not just because it's baseball, but because he was part of an Oakland A's team that made me re-fall in love with the game once again. And there's still aspects of the A's that he played with that stay true to the team today here in 2024. I'm entering my 6th opening day coming up next month, or actually no, this month. That's crazy. I'm going to head down to spring training here in a bit. This is going to be posted after that, so I can't wait to give you all the updates on that. Thank you so much for tuning in, Producer Philip, for putting up with everything. Make sure you're following all of our content on Awful Announcing and The Comeback, and subscribe, like all of the things, and rate the podcast too. I know you have amazing things to say about it because you're DMing me all the good stuff, but just hit the 5-star, 4-star. I won't hate you for it, and give us a little bit of some love. So I appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time.
Want even more short and to the point? Follow Jessica at Kleinschmidt JD and head over to thecomeback.com and awfulannouncing.com.